We are. Welcome, everybody, to the WNY Report. My name is Paula Collins, and I am pleased to be here with my co host, Nikki Lawley, and our special guest, yay, Ruben Lindo. And we are back for part two, and maybe there will be other parts, who knows, of this series with Ruben to talk about all things good and cannabis, especially as they relate to the Western New York or the Western part of our great state of New York. And this is the day after 420. And so we are looking to hear how it all went.
So let me kick it off. Did you guys do any 420 stuff?
I did. I went to the Roaring 420s Lounge. I was
Oh,
going to go
did
to
you?
another
I keep
one.
wanting to go there. I'm going to have to fly over to your place and we will go together to the Roaring 420s Lounge.
John Averill's really cool guy, and he really has tried to stay within the guidelines, but yet everyone's like, "Oh, it's illegal anyway," it's what he's doing is very unique. He's got like a research license, and he's kind of doing the consumption kind of under the research license. So it's really not, it's a private members only club. You've got to have your ID checked, you got to like sign up and all that. But like for $40, you can consume all day and they gift you cannabis. And then all you've got to do is fill out their survey, kind of like a strain print, Ruben, to kind of share the experience. And then they have information out there, um, you know,
Ruben,
for everyone.
have you heard of this place?
I've heard of it, but I haven't. I've never been.
Yeah, I've never been.
I've
I
never.
tried to go. I tried to go once. I think they were having a 4th of July or I forget what it was. Maybe Memorial Day, I don't know. I was all set to go and I got COVID. It must have been, I think it was Memorial Day. And then they got shut down for a while. And
Mhm.
Yeah, they did.
I thought they were just the champions when they reopened. I thought that's some guts,
I know, right?
you know?
I mean, it really was ballsy. I'm not going to lie, but
Nikki,
they tried so hard to communicate with OCM and do things the right way, and they just never could get answers. Very similar to the plight that you suffer from, Paula, where there's no customer service and they just send you that FAQ. I think it was a very similar situation. And now that they've changed locations, they're in the city of Buffalo, and the city of Buffalo is very welcoming to cannabis businesses, whereas the city of Cheektowaga, where they were, not so much.
Well, a place can be in a very cannabis friendly burg or, city, town, hamlet, whatever. Um, but ultimately, it's state law.
Ultimately,
Ultimately. So, anyway, I think I should go on a field trip too before they get shut down again.
they're
Uh,
not getting shut down. I got positivity on this.
so speaking of field trip, yesterday I did the 420 tour.
oh,
I
Um,
where'd you
saw
go?
all your posts,
I
man.
started out in Kingston and went to Greenport, New York, which is Hudson, and then from Hudson to Albany,
Wow.
and was at Mr. Good Vibes. Shout out to Mr. Good Vibes, my client, Amir Cowan, opened up beautiful store. So if you're ever in Albany and you're catching a concert, just do a cartwheel down the block from the arena to his dispensary. It's probably the most prime location you could get. It was super dope. He had a massage person out there, CBD vendors, just like a mini street fair. You know,
Wow.
he had some people representing the transgender community there, doing some fashion stuff. I mean, it was just everything that this industry is about. It is why he has a license. And
Excellent.
then I jumped in the car and drove down to New City, Rockland County, from Albany, and
That's pretty
then
far.
yeah, it was you know, I didn't consume um until I got to uh Ascend, which was my fourth location. I went to Ascend in Rochelle Park, which is
Is
Paramount.
that new, Ruben? Ascend?
Ascend?
I didn't.
No, man, they're in Jersey. They're one of the old.
Oh, that's why. Okay,
Yeah,
that makes
so
sense.
so look, I did a two-state 420 tour to link up with Brendan Robinson to shock him and his brother,
Yeah,
and I showed up at their pop-up, and it was
nice.
they treated me like an absolute rock star. Those
I
guys
believe it.
are those guys are great. I got to wear the belt. I got
Nice.
the dispensary owners absolutely treated me like royalty. Gave me a tour. I took pictures with the entire staff. Gave
Nice.
me some product. They gave me a T-shirt. Brendan gave me a T-shirt, and then I ended up back in Nanuet, and then I was about to jump in the car and drive to Manhattan uh, to the event that Veterans Relief, Jason and his team were hosting. And I quickly remembered that at 9 o'clock at night, after being on the run and in the car with a hip replacement after 6 weeks, um, I better take my butt home. So I drove home and parked on the couch and literally just collapsed and woke up.
Mhm.
But it was great. We had a great time. We, something that I learned about our industry through this weekend is our cannabis folks are resilient.
They are.
We are very resilient, and you guys know what happened with point of sales crashing, and
Mhm.
don't let me
We
start
should
defending.
probably touch on that, Ruben, because maybe our viewers aren't aware. Hi, Tom. Hi, Joe. Just so you know, I see you. But perhaps we should talk about that.
So, I mean, I got up this morning and every morning I log into LinkedIn. It's like my ritual,
Same.
and I saw a lot of scuttlebutt going around about a certain point of sale company going down. And unfortunately, this point of sale company went down 2 years prior. Um, and, look, tech happens and stuff happens, but it's not. I think that the worst part about the whole thing is that it happened on our Black Friday. It happened on our Super Bowl, right? So being
Mhm.
being a former project manager in a point of sale company, I worked for one of the biggest point of sale companies that was bought by Epicor and Microsoft. And Black, all we did all year was prepare for Black Friday. That's all we did. We prepared for Black Friday, and we would do mock dumps. We would take systems offline. We would do different things. Some of my clients were big high-end retailers that had um, outlet locations. So could you imagine like Kennebunkport, Maine, in August in the outlet? We would
Wow.
we would take it offline. We would crash it, and just so that we knew that we could fail over. They would
Mhm.
tell us the store has 150 people in it, and we
Mhm.
would take it offline and do our procedure. Why? Because that's what we work toward for Black Friday. Like if Black Friday went down, if something went down on Black Friday, we had to have a contingency plan.
Yeah.
I I don't know why they continue to have these problems, and I don't know if it's in the same area. Um, I feel bad for the. I don't feel bad for the retailers per se. I feel bad for the bud tenders, right? And because they're front line and they're getting killed,
Abuse.
right?
Yeah.
Um, I was in a dispensary yesterday, and I was number 44 in that hour that this person was waiting on. And I asked her, I said, how many people? And she looked at her log and she said, I'm serving you, you're my 44th customer.
Wow.
It was
So that's one every 2 minutes.
1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. And so she's having to, depending on how it's set up there, she's having to communicate with somebody else to run to the back room to get the product because she can't really leave the register. Although in a few places they do leave the register, which I always thought was kind of strange, but whatever. And I'm looking at the chat. I don't know if you can see the chat, but yeah, and it is 3 years in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um,
I
so
mean, and it's just,
This
again,
is the third.
it's unacceptable from that standpoint. I guess we'll have to wait for their post-mortem and their apology letter, because what we thought we saw today when we were doing our pre-show, pre-production chat, you guys, for people who don't know, if you're in a chat with Paula and Nikki, I was out for lunch with my daughter, and I looked back down at my phone and we were on like 26 chats. I missed 26 messages in
we
minutes.
talk a lot, Ruben. We talk a lot.
It was
We text like we talk,
impressive.
man.
It was impressive. But anyway, let's jump back into the business of cannabis, because here's my thought. I think that people need to now start to become very discerning about who we give our business to. You know, in the beginning, it's great to do business with folks who offer you a lot of free stuff. This is my heeding warning to new prospective licensees. If you're listening, there's always a reason why people want to give you stuff for free, right? There's always a reason, and sometimes it's to put lipstick on a pig, as they say back in Arkansas, and sometimes it's to entice you to come in and then jack up the price later on.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I've been fully expecting, come in at this reduced rate, and it was a card deal, right?
Right.
And I've been fully expecting, well, what happens in year 2 or year 3?
Right.
But, and I
I
guess
don't know if they're going to make it.
There.
I see a lot of people saying that they want to drop them. Now, look, everyone gets grace in our industry, right?
They do.
I mean, this is an industry full of grace. How could a guy like myself, a convicted felon, who couldn't get a job for 7.5 years, stumble into a cigar lounge to have a cigar and sit down next to a legacy grower from Humboldt County in Orange County, New York? No, Dutchess County. I mean, it was just the most bizarre way that I stumbled into this. And when they asked me to help them write a business plan and a pitch deck and do all these things, I said to them, I don't even know what industry this is. And they said, oh, it's weed. I said, hey, man, I'm on parole. I can't afford to go back. And they said, no, it's legal. And I started laughing and I said, okay, yeah, it's legal. And I started doing some research. And then I had to go to them and say, hey, guys, listen, I told you I'm on parole. If this is going to ruin it, I'm a convicted felon. They're like, you're the reason why we do this business. And it was like God sent me these two guys, John and Johnny. And I pay them a tremendous, our relationship did not end in the most amicable way, as most times in this industry. A lot of it was my lack of maturity and patience for certain things and timing, right? But I will say this, if it weren't for John and Johnny, and I won't say their last names, but I do. And those of you who know me, at my event every year, I say thank you to John and Johnny every year. Every time every major interview, I talked about them on Nat Geo last year. I'll talk about them again this year on the Hulu show. But this is what we are. We're an industry full of grace. And I think that when it comes to looking at the blight of these retail, this particular company, I thought long and hard about this today, and this is why I'm not saying their name, because I don't want this to seem like I'm bashing them. But they seem not to have their stuff together on 420.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what it is. And this is our Super Bowl. This is our Black Friday, as I said. This is the biggest day of the year for retailers in our industry, the biggest day. And you can't fumble the ball going into the end zone 3 years in a row. That's like the Buffalo Bills wide right.
It is. It is.
But
It's like wide right, man, all over
but
again.
but I will say, I expect them to come out with a post-mortem. It would be interesting to see how many people exit from using their platform. I, if you follow me on LinkedIn this morning, I took an opportunity to talk about a company that I rep. I won't talk about it here because this isn't the time, place, or manner for that. Respectfully for you two, in your show, unless they want to cut you a check, then I'll be more than happy to talk about it. But they have never gone down. Their uptime is 99.99% of the time. They are a 5-9 company, and I only say that to say they have their stuff together. And you can hit me up offline, and I can talk to you about them, and I can make the introductions. I've been an influencer rep for them for a year now. It's been pretty successful for them, right? It's not about me making money. It's about me helping people get on a solid platform. And especially I came from the point of sale world, right? So we vetted them hard, and we vetted other companies hard. And there are some great companies out there. Um, so just, unfortunately, you have to take your time and do your homework and ask the most crucial question. What are you going to give me in my contract if you go down on Super Bowl Black Friday?
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a monetary figure. And if they're not willing to put money behind what they do to guarantee your uptime, I'd keep shopping until I find somebody who's going to be willing. There are 3 crucial days in our industry, right? 420, 710, and usually July 4th is a
Mm-hmm.
big day in our industry.
Agreed.
You know? Those are the things that I would look at. Paula, what are your thoughts? Nikki, what are your thoughts on the situation?
Well, I think of it like we said originally, the bud tenders. I mean, they were under fire, and this wasn't just a New York problem. This was a problem in multiple states. I mean, the whole I don't know if it was the inventory management or the online ordering, but it was like one entire component went down. And when that went down, I mean, like there was no backup plan. I
Yeah.
guess is what I'm saying. Like the dispensaries need to kind of create a fire drill plan. You know what I'm saying? What happens if we lose our it's no different than being in the medical field, right? If we lost our computer system with the patients that we have and ever all their history and everything, you had to have a contingency plan
Mhm.
And
because
what
no
do
one
they do? Can they handwrite stuff or no?
that's what we had to do. We had to handwrite it and then we had to put it in afterwards. But we had a certain kind of format. So whoever was doing that data entry in later, it was very self explanatory. So I would think in a dispensary situation, you would have to do something very similar. And I don't know if that meant take a picture on your cell phone of the lot number and everything so you can make sure it gets in accurately. But there needed to be a backup, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying they didn't have one because
Right.
obviously they worked through the situation. Like I didn't hear of anyone closing their doors on 420. So, but I'm just thinking, you've got to really think out that SOP for what happens if.
Mhm.
So that's interesting, Paula. What jump in there real quick, and then I want to share something with you guys because I just thought of something.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm glad that the industry is maturing to a point that we do have choice. I guess we've had choice all along, but initially in New York, there was such, I can't call it pressure. I don't know. There was sort of a default POS provider, and I think we've gone beyond that point. Um, I know that the point of sale service providers that some of my unlicensed shops use, which are very similar, where they can do inventory tracking and so forth. I know that those go down frequently, but there's always a backup plan. There's always we can write things out. We can, we a lot of places will have two systems, one that is the backup plan and one that is the more convenient, slick, whatever. But I don't think you can do that in a licensed environment, because you because of the tracking that's involved. And keep in mind, all of this is before we've added real seed to sale tracking, and however that will or will not impact on what happens at the register. And as far as who do I feel for, I honestly feel for the consumer, because the person who is a bud tender presumably kind of knows what they signed up for, which doesn't make it right and it doesn't make it easy. But the consumer who wanders in, I go back to that logo that the state adopted that I chuckle over. In fact, I cackle over. Why buy legal? So if it's 420 and I'm a consumer and I say, oh, no, 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 come on, guys, come on, let's go to the legal shop now. We're all grown up. And you go to the legal shop and you make your choices, and in many cases you stand in line and you make your choices and you finally make your way up to the register, and then the whole thing sort of falls apart. Guess where I'm going? I'm voting with my feet.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's something that we write SOPs for all of our clients. And my client, Mr. Good Vibes, has the other point of sale company, the one that went down, but he didn't go down yesterday.
Oh, good.
I was.
It was a weird. It wasn't real consistent. What happened?
I think it's modular. I'm not going to tell them what it is, but I think it's modular based. I think the problem is based in the module that they have, and it's a version build issue.
Okay.
I guarantee you, having a software background, I think that's probably it. But one of the things that we do is we tell our clients, like Amin, he has 3 different ways of keeping track of his inventory, right? And the first way is his point of sale and inventory track. The second way is a spreadsheet and paper, and the third way is the clipboard that is outside the cage. So we constantly know, and when he reconciles, it takes him to get his report in. He's reconciling constantly. So he does really well keeping track of it. I see Joe Ortiz made a comment there about for the medical dispensaries. But that brought me to another point. You know who didn't have a problem yesterday? The 35,000 illicit shops, quote unquote, in New York State, whether it went down or not. Like, I heard what you said about your clients who are unlicensed that operate, but honestly, they don't have to turn in a report to the state. So it's really just for their inventory management and peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
If they can never not ring sales. Okay, I can't take a credit card. Go down the street and hit that ATM, or go over here and hit my ATM. Like, they don't have the same pressures as, and I agree with you. I misspoke when I said I felt bad for the bud tenders, because I do compassionately, but in an industry that's consumer driven,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, if New York State wants to push for people to shop and buy legal. By the way, did you guys see that ridiculous campaign they had for 420? Go and take a picture and enter to win. The state of New York had an enter to win. I don't know what you could win. Go look up OCM's 420 campaign. It will make you laugh. Oh, take a picture in front of our buy legal for a chance to win. What are you going to win? I love OCM t-shirt. Like, do they $6 million and 60 people working in communications, and they came up with a sweepstakes. That's like that would be like the SLA having a take a picture at a bar on St. Patrick's Day to win a free pint or a free T-shirt. Or it's just insanity to me that you get to win a child safe lockbox.
I think
Oh,
you're.
that's what it was.
I think
That's
you're
what it
right.
was.
I think you're right. Even the city of New York loves to a free audit.
A free audit.
No, city of New York, when Dashita does events, they have the little lock boxes, which
Here's my problem. Here's my problem with this. Does Pfizer give out a lockbox when they pick up your prescription for your opioids?
no, but they do have the child safe thing. I don't know.
Well, again, that comes back to the parent. Okay, like I'm just saying, it's parenting. It's not about if it's locked up or not, right? Like if you've got a 14-year-old kid in your house, and mind you, this literally just happened in my life, not with me directly, but with someone very close to me, and you have a 14-year-old kid and she steals your gummies and goes to school and gives them to the little kids at school, the other 14-year-olds at school, to be cool and fit in, you're gonna get caught. Right?
Yeah.
But had this human been an adult about it, the shit would have been locked up in a different room that she didn't have access to. She's like, well, you got a lot of them, so I figured you wouldn't notice. And and she's right? But if you keep the shit where kids can get it, you're literally just asking for that. So whether you have a locked bag or a locked box is really sort of irrelevant. It comes back to the parent and the parenting.
So
Personally.
so again, I think that's a great point, right? But it just makes me scratch my head and wonder, like, this is why people don't take our industry seriously, right? Because here we are having a conversation about child safety. I have a pill bottle on my desk. I can call my 7-year-old downstairs right now and ask her to open this. You know who couldn't open this? My 75-year-old mother, if she was
Same.
alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My 7-year-old could get this open, no problem, right? We do all this child safety protection stuff as a manufacturer because we're looking at new techniques and new ways to do CS proofing on packaging. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. These kids are going to get into these products, right? Who are you keeping it from? The 3 and 5-year-old? Well, like you said, Nikki, shame on you if you're a parent of a 3 or a 5-year-old and you're leaving your consumption devices and things laying around. Now, I'll tell you, I grew up in a real strict black household, very strict. My mother, you guys, I told you, was a Black Panther, but my mother smoked reefer. That's what they called it back in the day. They called it reefer, right? My mother smoked reefer. Man, I wish I would have touched her a roach clip. She'd have broke my little hind parts in 10 pieces, right? Again, it goes back to parenting.
Yeah.
And we knew not to touch that stuff. We knew not to mess around with it. I don't know how my sister started consuming. I think my sister started consuming at like 13 or 14 because that's what you did back then. But like, I say all that to say, again, we're going to give away a free child safe lockbox to keep your weed in. But again, you don't do the same thing with penicillin. You don't do the same, matter of fact, I'll tell you one further. My father was on methadone when I was a kid. And I remember watching them mix it with Tang and thinking,
What?
Tang.
Tang?
The astronauts.
Nikki's from Western New York. They didn't have Tang. They just have Loganberry, shit like that up there. Tang was like a citrus drink that was like Sunny Delight.
Okay.
But it was powdered.
But it was powder, and you would mix it.
Oh, Tang.
Because the astronauts,
Tang, like T-A-N-G, Tang.
Yeah.
I know Tang. Okay.
So my and this is true story. My dad had um, mixed it and put it in the back of the fridge. And my sister and I were like, what is that dad has? And we just didn't know. We were little. And my mother was like, don't ever touch that. And do you think we ever touched it? One time we looked at it, it smelled so bad. And then we put it back, and they knew that we touched it. So we had to have a family discussion about it. And again, it goes back to parenting. That stuff looked like the stuff that we were mixing and drinking with our breakfast, and dad was drinking it in the morning and then at night, right? But now it was methadone. It was how he was treating himself. So again, if we're going to be an industry of intentionality and be a real purposeful industry, we have to get away from these gimmicks, these gimmick things. Take a picture in front of a buy here sign to get a free lockbox. Uh, you know, they don't. It's just to me. There's levels of insanity. It's like go buy your licensed handgun from an FFL and get a free T-shirt. Like, no, we don't. No other industry does this except for us. We play these gimmicky games, and then we wonder why no one takes us serious as an industry. That's just my soapbox. Let's get off of that.
Yeah, so now let's move into the budget. So the budget passed.
The
Woo-hoo.
budget passed. And keep in mind, this is the second year the budget has been weeks late.
Weeks. But we did get rid of the potency tax. So that was we did get rid of the marketing regs, but not because of the budget, but because of the other thing. But like, I'm just doing a little OCM imitation. That's why I'm clapping.
Oh, we should pat each other on the back. I'd like to call out that Nikki has done a fantastic job on calling out the OCM for its achievements, and we should all be very proud, but especially Nikki's efforts.
Yeah, and then I'll get up there and play one of the 5 regular candidates that get up there at the podium at the microphone during the public comments and say, I just want to say you guys are doing an excellent job. No matter what anyone says.
Because I am trying to suck up to you.
It's really hard work out there to do the job that you were hired to do. And you're the first person ever to sit in a role as a regulator of a cannabis space. And it's really hard to be who you are.
For which you are getting a 6-figure salary with dental benefits.
Vision
and probably plastic surgery. You can get your tax credits too while you're at it. State insurance is pretty good.
So let's talk about the budget.
The budget. I think there were some pluses and some, I'll jump right into there's a 9% tax now to replace the potency tax, which, by the way, I would love to see a report on who has accurately filed their potency taxes, because I compared, and I'm choosing my words very carefully.
Smart.
I compared invoices versus what was shown on the invoice to be potency tax with like 4 or 5 different invoices. And
it wasn't calculated correctly.
Just slightly off. And that's what they were collecting. So that's probably what they were paying in. What we don't know is who has collected the potency tax. And I honestly don't know this.
Right.
Who has collected the potency tax but not paid their potency taxes, which that's a problem. That gets into fraud.
Yeah.
But that's what happens to people when they're desperate. And the only way it's really going to pop up is when people are thinking, why haven't I heard from OCM about the extension of my license, or, going from conditional cultivator to adult use cultivator, which the deadline tick-tock is coming up June 30th. So there are still quite a number of people that I'm aware of that are still waiting. And so I know that at least some of those people have paid their taxes mostly out of fear that, well, maybe that's why I'm not getting approved.
Right.
Mm.
So, but it would be interesting to know. And I don't know what's behind the curtain to really, like, would it be Department of Taxation and Finance, I guess, that would generate that report? Because I don't think OCM would necessarily have access to that report. I think they would have to partner with somebody at DTF to get that report. So there's that. And then will there ever be an audit of who paid accurately and whose calculations were off, and therefore you owe us X amount of dollars? Or are they just going to do a wash and say, you know what, whatever's been
Starting
paid
over.
has been paid, and going forward, it's a 9% tax?
Yeah, I think the latter,
I do too.
because we don't want to upset the apple cart. I think that there were so many things, again, unfortunately for the good actors who calculated correctly and paid the potency tax, collected and paid it. Kudos to you. To the bad actors, I think it's only going to be a matter of time, like you said, before that stuff catches up to them anyway.
Well, that would bespeak a larger cash flow issue that's not just about the potency tax.
Right, right.
I gotta say, if you calculate it correctly, it was a chunk. It was definitely a concern. Um, I I think that I think we are at just such a precarious place in our industry because of this June 30th deadline, and not everybody has heard back. And I don't know why that's not a priority. And I don't know how many are still waiting to hear. I know quite a number of them have heard, but it's I don't know why it's a problem. I don't know why there is a question.
So I'll tell you, the tax thing is your wheelhouse. Understanding this industry and the nuances of this industry has become my area of expertise, and being operating in other states and other countries and understanding. I think that the potency tax is, yay, that's a great thing, right? There's been some pushback. It should be lower. It should be this. Understanding where we are whitewater rafting in a Dixie cup right now, and we're just able to stay afloat with this industry because as that June 30th deadline approaches, I think we have a bigger issue on our hands. And I think a lot of giving the AUCCs the ability, and this is a great segue. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but I think the transitioning of the AUCCs, and giving them the ability to go micro is going to severely impact the product availability of flower,
Hmm.
and the viability, because they're not bringing on more cultivators to replace the ones that they're allowing to transition. Um, I don't think that was a great idea. I think that was I think it was a great idea around the water cooler. Like, hey, it would really be cool if we give the conditional cultivators the right of first refusal to go to micro licenses, right? Because they struggled and stuck it out with us. And this is nothing against the farmers. Please don't ever, anyone, please don't take this as me going against the farmers. It's me going against the Office of Cannabis Mismanagement and their illogical approach to regulating this industry. What we are creating is one of two things. They're either going to have to maximize the square footage
Hmm.
and the acreage allowed to be grown by these people, um, or they're going to have to increase the people who are straight cultivators' ability to cultivate out of tier
Hmm.
in these tier licenses, because the one key piece that we everybody keeps talking past. We're talking about more licenses. We're talking about more, getting more dispensaries open. We're talking about all of these things, but there's something that the Office of Cannabis Mismanagement seems to miss every single time, and that's the market density report. John Kagia wants to always talk about, like he's talking about price leakage and compression and all of these things, and they're comparing the market to mature markets. And somebody today was talking on LinkedIn and mentioned California and how California has has double the residents that we have, and yada yada yada. And I kind of have to remind everybody it's also 3.5 times bigger than New York State. I also have to remind everyone that when it comes to cannabis in our industry, it's always based on market density slash consumption and not straight consumption. That's how you get the numbers that you need. I've been doing this longer. I said to somebody one day, I have notebooks with cannabis notes in it older than John Kagia and the leadership at OCM, right? I got work boots older than these kids,
So
right?
to that point, Ruben, I think that what they miss in like in John's um, last density report or talking about the market compression, and I think we all sort of get lulled into his voice and his accent, but when the PowerPoints and so forth.
James Bond of the OCM.
Right. And then you start to really look at what he's or really take apart the sentences and you're like, it's
Why?
not really anything there. But the main thing that I take issue with is whenever we look at, well, look at what happened in Colorado. Well, you can't compare for a lot of reasons. One is when the market rolled out in Colorado or really Washington State and Oregon, we weren't sure what was going to happen at the federal level. Remember those first few days, we were thinking, okay, are the feds just going to come crashing in? So there was that. So you didn't have the proliferation of unlicensed shops because people were still scared.
Mhm.
Whereas, New Yorkers are not scared of anything. They just barrel on through and say, F you.
Right.
But the other thing that's different is technology. So when Colorado and Washington and Oregon and the early days of the first California industry rolled out, um, we didn't have apps. You couldn't order weed on your phone.
Right.
Nope.
I mean, we had buzzers or what do we call them? Beepers.
Beepers.
You had the beepers, but you didn't have the portability of an app that was beautiful and that had more technology behind it than Apollo 13 had to go to the moon. And yet, to me, that is the notable difference. So
Mhm.
all of this business about we're going to shut down the unlicensed market, well, guess what? You're not. It's just going to migrate to an app
But
and be in somebody's basement along with the electric bike batteries.
right, so so great point. But the thing is, we have to think again. Think about market density report. We've never seen one in New York, right?
Mhm.
Everyone likes to run around and tout New York is the cannabis capital of the world. Well, tell me how it's the I don't disagree, but tell me how it's the cannabis capital of the world. Because I will share with you, as a person who is moving 1,000 pounds of cannabis from California to New York back in the day when I was in the legacy market, we did 1,000 pounds every 14 days. This is no exaggeration. By the 12th day, we were getting a call from our guys in New York saying, we're out of weed. And we were just one of them. The Chinese were bringing in triple what we were bringing in, and everybody else was bringing in a ton of weed. New Yorkers consume probably as much cannabis as we do pizza, and we know we love our damn pizza in New York.
I had pizza today.
Right? So
Slay.
I say this in a way that, like, I make a joke out of it, but in 2019 or 2018 when Ontario went legal
Mm-hmm.
and Canada went legal, I was on CP24 and I was with Mayor Ford. You guys remember Mayor Ford, Rob Ford, crazy
Rob
old Rob.
Ford. Yep.
And I said to Rob, we will be out of cannabis in Ontario in 30 days because our testing procedures are so stringent and we only have 13 grow facilities that can grow in the province, and we're behind schedule on the others, and this is a government program. And Rob Ford looked at me and said, I guess they're just going to have to go back to the street. And no one batted an eye. It was like, and I'm saying, no, let's get facilities online, because that's what we did, right? We built facilities. And lo and behold, Nikki, you remember this. July 21st, they put signs up that said, we no longer, there is no more weed, or something like that, that we were out of legal weed. And let me tell you who had a field day. My boys up in Scarborough, right? Nick, you know Scarborough.
Oh, I know Scarborough.
Those of you who don't know, Scarborough is the equivalent of Washington Heights and Harlem, in Toronto. And in Scarborough, the boys on the block became millionaires. I'm not kidding you. By August, I saw guys driving Ford Raptor trucks. I saw Rolls Royces. I saw, like, legitimately, because that's where they went. Now, look, here we are in New York. We're talking about the budget. The governor Friday had that emergency press conference. We were all on pins and needles until we figured out it was about enforcement. It's really cute that the mayor of New York, who has to turn in his cell phone and laptop on a weekly basis to the FBI because he's under some kind of investigation. This has happened 4 or 5 times now with Eric Adams, is going to be the top cop enforcing shutting down these shops, right? Now, this guy says he can shut down these shops in 30 days. But who remembers Eric Adams at Empire Club in New York City, taking a picture at Empire Club?
Yeah.
Like, it just blows my mind that this guy is the same guy who bragged about shutting it down in 30 days. Well, the NFL draft is on starts Thursday night, right? Dear Mayor, you are officially on the clock, sir. You said you could shut these shops down in 30 days. Paula, you and I talked about this. Nikki, we talked about this in our pre-production text. And I don't think that there's a legal grounds for them to even stand on. They've had all of this money put into the budget, and I'll let Paula get into that, guys, because you got to hear her say it. I love the way Paula talks money and legal. There's something about it gives me goosebumps. It's like watching. It's like no, please don't. I don't mean it that way, but it does. It does. It's exciting.
Well, the thing is,
it's like CSI.
I think that the last I heard, we had collected about $20,000 in fines out of all, because the way the statute is written, and this is going back to, if we count this enforcement, go back 2 more, and it was written in, I think it was even in the enforcement regs, $10,000 a day is the fine.
Yes. Yes.
And so when they wrote that, I was like, okay, how are we going to count days? And what they've started doing is, once you get your first enforcement action, and then they're going to come back. And that's what's been hard for me to say to people. They will come back. Because, when this was all new, guys would say to me, well, thank God that's over. We've been waiting for when they're going to come bust in. Now we know, okay, that's done. and they didn't realize they're going to come back. And when it was just the OCM rates, they would come back somewhere between day 21 and 28. You could almost put it on the calendar. And so then that would be what they would do, is they would count $10,000 a day between the first day of enforcement and the second day. And then there would be a third and a fourth. But with the New York City actions, they have just done, if you got hit once, it's 10,000. If you actually, in New York City, if you got hit once, it's 5,000.
Right.
It's written in the statute to be 10, but the reality is it's been 5. And sometimes we can get it down to 4. And then the second time it's just double that. And then the third time, if it happens, we've got some real serious talking, like you really do need to shut down. Like your playtime is over. You've made your money. You had a good run. I don't know where you're going. Wink, wink, nod, nod, but you can't continue here. But this whole thing about millions and millions of dollars being spent, you go back to OCM enforcement when they beefed up. What did they get? 5 million initially, and then they went back and asked for more, and I think it went up to 15 million. And then I think in the last budget round they got an additional 20 million or 25 million, I think. I'm not sure. Million
Yeah.
to do enforcement.
To do enforcement.
And then now I don't know what they've been given for enforcement, but we're talking about statewide, different, NYPD or whatever, sheriff's department or county officials in the various places outside of New York City have been given budget money for enforcement, millions and millions of dollars. And I maintain, and I want to be on record and on video, and whoever's listening in needs to hear me loud and clear. I long for a day when New York has a regulated market, a well-run and efficient regulated market, because I do believe in the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. It's the taxation piece that I am most dedicated to that isn't happening. To date, the last I heard, we had collected $20,000 and we had shut down exactly one operator.
One.
And that was the Attorney General taking action. Then, that wasn't taking into a chief after that, take into account after that, because Dave Tully got shut down upstate, and then they did take action against Big Chief, but Big Chief, my goodness, they got raided. I don't know, was it 6, 7, or 8 times before they finally got padlocked?
Where's Big Chief?
In Brooklyn.
Oh, in Brooklyn.
And they are related to the Big Chief distributor or producer in California. So it was just it was like a franchise in a sense. But here is my point, loud and clear, is that enforcement does not work. I say it like a mantra. The enforcement does not work. The government lost the war on drugs. Why not find a pathway to tax these guys? We've seen the model in Washington, D.C. Give them a very limited time to get on board with licensing. And to be perfectly honest, let's go back to the first question of this call. What did I do on 420? Well, I was trying to catch up on sleep because I've been driving like crazy and working like crazy on other things, and had a day when I could just lie on my sofa with my cats and sleep. And what happened? My phone was ringing over people who either have been enforced against and they need, because I send out flyers, or people who had heard about the emergency regs, because it's all over the news, or the enforcement being added to the budget. And they're kind of getting it. People are starting to understand that, the state is getting serious about this. My regret is that every single one of my guys will say, well, if you could help me with this, and then can I apply for a license now? No, you can't. There's no open portal. We think there will be one that opens up in the summer, but we don't know. And then, of course, they're used to private enterprise because a lot of people have who opened up unlicensed smoke shops. This was not their first business. This was not one business. They own various kinds of businesses, whether it's real estate or convenience stores or car trading or what have you. Not their only business. And they want it. The next thing is, okay, so when I apply, how soon before I find out? And I have to be honest. And I say, well, there have been people who have been waiting since December of 2021.
Facts.
I'm not lying.
Right. Years.
And so to me, we do not yet have a functioning industry because a person cannot reasonably make a business plan, talk to ancillary professionals, and know that, 6 to 9 months, I'm going to have a business, or I'm going to be told you have these deficiencies that you cannot overcome, you cannot cure. In the liquor industry, if I think, you know what, I've always wanted to own my own liquor store. If I put together a business plan and submit an application, I get an answer within, sometime before I go on Social Security.
Right.
Right.
No, we applied for a liquor license back in the day, and we had a response back within 30 days.
Exactly. And you're told, that you're told exactly what you can cure. And how about this one? If you get some correspondence on that liquor license application,
there's a person you can call back.
Pick up the phone, or you can go to a window
Yeah.
and talk to people.
Go to a window.
I think everybody on this call knows I'm running for office. I had reason to go to Albany to file additional paperwork. And I remarked as I was standing there at the window, I had no appointment. I simply had additional documents I wanted to file, and I could waltz in, speak to humans, multiple humans who had credentials to help me with my questions.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
And I was sitting there thinking, wouldn't it be nice if the Office of Cannabis Management had a window?
Well, when they open up for public comments, like at some of these OCM meetings or CCB meetings, people think that they're actually going to be able to talk to like Tremaine and like have a chill session with her and like say, well, what's the status of my application?
Mhm.
I'm number 8734, whatever.
Yeah.
And, it's not the case. I mean, yeah, you're got what, 2 minutes to like state your cause and state your purpose, and then you got to go.
So
And,
I think that, that brings up an interesting point. While we're here, I just texted my network. I texted the sheriff of Albany County, sheriff of Steuben County, sheriff of Erie County, sheriff of Ulster County, Dutchess County, Columbia County, Greene County.
damn, Ruben.
And I put them because I have them on group text. And I said, hey, sheriffs, just wondering how much money you're expecting to get out of this year's budget for enforcement on cannabis, because each department should be getting some money. Typically, you talk to these guys, and I can talk to them any time of the night. You talk to them about money, they're right on it, right? Oh, you're giving us a donation, you got, these guys are on it. One sheriff has responded back. We haven't heard, our department hasn't heard anything as of yet. You think that they're going to spend time, and I won't say which county it is because I don't want to give people the free-for-all.
Sure.
However, this sheriff responded back, they haven't heard anything as of yet. Okay, granted, it's new. Do you think that they're going to do some type of enforcement before they get a damn red cent to allocate toward it? They've already cut their budgets down because they're not going to be prosecuting 222.21 and 22 possession of cannabis anymore. I work every month with law enforcement on stuff, right? We talk a lot. My local police department, the town next door to me, just permitted their officers to use cannabis against my good advice. They're allowing them to use cannabis, but here again, I don't want to get on a soapbox, but I just want to say I agree with you, Paula. I don't think enforcement works. I think that if we're spending millions and millions of dollars to get $20,000 back, I have a mailbox that they can PO Box 516 that they can send me a check to, because if they're just giving away money and throwing away money, just send it to me.
Exactly.
And I'll run around
Millions,
like
millions,
right. I'll act like I'm shutting down shops, but
all for photo ops. It's all
so,
for headlines and photo ops.
so I think look, we're up on an hour. I love you guys. It flies by so fast, but I do want to say this for those of you who are listening. Tonight's call, we were really trying to have some conversation, and something that Nikki and Paula really pride themselves on is they want to be um, a solution based outlet, right? They want to give solutions, they want to give ideas, and I think I'll take responsibility. I think sometimes my negative sense and what I've seen jaded in the industry took over tonight. So we didn't offer a lot of solutions, but I have written a 5-point plan on enforcement that I've shared with law enforcement community. I'm waiting for buy-in. I promise that I will give it to you and Paula, and you guys can post it out on your networks just to get feedback. I also have been having a lot of conversation with folks in Albany, in office and higher ups about two very specific things: a clear transition plan for the unlicensed and for legacy, and a real transition plan. I know we've gotten a lot of pushback and a lot of heat from folks about, well, you don't want to just reward those who didn't do it right. I get it. But I will say this: putting padlocks on people's doors is going to create a constitutional infringement that we've never seen anywhere else. I don't care what the governor thinks that this is a great idea. I think that when you put padlocks on, what people seem to forget is here in New York specifically, a lot of our real estate is owned by real estate trusts. They are corporations that own these buildings, not individuals. They hide behind corporate veils. Some of them are Wyoming. Some of them are corporations. And Paula, you being the attorney and a tax attorney, you could probably speak more to this than I can. But me as a layman, as a guy who watches Jeopardy and smokes some weed and drinks bourbon and watches sports all day, literally I see nothing but a nightmare happening when they go and they padlock some billionaire guys buildings that are now, that property is tied up in a trust to another property and tied to another property and as an asset backing for another property. Or what do they do when it's the Teamsters building? What,
Yeah,
right? Like
that's
these
going to
are
go over well.
but these are the things that they didn't think about. And I agree, we need something needs to be done. But you know what that something is? Open up more licenses
Open more shops.
and let the consumers drive
The
those
market.
businesses out of business. But the other thing that they have to do is balance and get the rest of the supply chain. We cannot be focused on the ass end of the supply chain or the head of the supply chain, depending on where you want to pet the dog, right? You can't stand at the end of the supply chain and think that that's the resolve. There's three components to the supply chain in cannabis. It is cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, retail, like every other industry. But for some reason in cannabis, we want to muddy the waters and we want to make it something that it's not, and then leave out the middle of the supply chain by allowing producers to bring the stuff directly to from C to B. And it's just broken. And if they really just talk to people who understand this industry, and I know we're going over, I'm sorry, soapboxing 4 minutes over, but if they really wanted to do things the right way, they would talk to people who are business minded folks like me who have MBAs, who understand finance, who understand building an industry. Let's get away from building an industry on broken people and on the words I'm sorry, and start looking at how do we do the number one thing that this bill was intended to do. The number one thing that this bill was intended to do was restore the harm. The only way that you restore the harm is by feeding the communities that were disproportionately impacted with the tax revenue. That's what the whole crux of this thing was, right? But again, the very flip side of that coin, the tail side of that coin, Nikki, you're going to love this, was access to the plant. That's why we kept saying access to the plant. So
Yeah.
again, look at it how we're going to solve the insatiable needs of the consumers. We need to get more licenses open. We need to get
100%.
cultivation going. We need to get processing going. We have to slow down the AUCCs that need to transition and give them a chance to stay cultivators, because New Yorkers have an insatiable desire to consume cannabis more than we want to consume pizza. And by the way, in my town on Route 9W, we have 10 pizza places. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you, guys. I love you. Thank you for having me.
Come back.
I will come
next
back.
Sunday.
Nope, next Sunday I cannot, but we
Take
will.
a rain check.
We'll get back together and have other people come on the show. I love you guys. I support you guys. I support the show. We're getting geared up for this year. Big announcement coming up. It's going to be a little different this year. Hint, hint, hint. We might do a cruise on the Hudson this year. Very small, intimate group.
I love it. That sounds beautiful.
It'll be a lot of fun, and I am looking forward to the rest of the week. This week, I think we should get a report. I think that we are going to see some fallout from a couple other things going on that we didn't get to. It should be a fun week in the New York State cannabis.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Ruben, thank you so much for joining us again. And Paula, keep it tight. Keep the peace going.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
See ya.